I'm Rachel, 35, project manager by trade, peacemaker by instinct. Some betrayals don't arrive with slammed doors or screaming matches. They arrive smiling with a glass of wine in hand, promising they just want to be family. We grew up in a small town where everyone knows your dog's name and family means everything. Our parents worked hard, didn't have much, but made sure we had what counted. Sunday dinners were sacred, disagreements ended with apologies, even if they were stiff. My brother Luke is 3 years younger. He was the kid who trailed me everywhere during thunderstorms. As adults, he's the easygoing one. Funny, a little shy, big-hearted. He trusts people. He trusted me most of all. When he introduced us to Nicole, I was ready to love her. She was charming in that polished, careful way that seems harmless at first. Pretty, practiced. She worked in corporate communications and always had the right words. She laughed at our dad's terrible jokes, offered to help my mom clear the table. She was good. Too good. But I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being protective, maybe even jealous of losing my brother a little, so I decided to give her room. Because that's what family does. Nicole seemed to want that too. She called me, invited me to coffee, asked about my work and our childhood. She said she wanted to be like sisters, and I wanted that too. So I let her in. I shared things I hadn't said aloud in years, small family conflicts I'd helped smooth over. My worry about Dad's health, the details of a breakup that still left a bruise. Nicole listened carefully, nodded at all the right moments, told me she understood. And the whole time she was storing it, not to connect, but to use. Nicole didn't rush anything. That was her skill. She made it feel natural, like we were growing close at the perfect pace. She asked if I'd help her choose her bridal shower theme, said she trusted my taste more than anyone. She'd text me late at night about color palettes, cake flavors, florists. When I'd suggest something, she'd gush about how I was saving her sanity. She even asked me to be part of her bridal party. She said she couldn't imagine doing it without me standing there beside her. We had these wine nights at my place. She'd show up with a bottle she picked out just for us, always acting delighted to be there. We'd sit on my couch, candles lit, music playing low. She'd lean in close, conspiratorial, and tell me about her own family drama, her mother's impossible expectations, her sister's jealousy. She made me feel safe sharing in return. So I did. I told her about my dad's heart scare the year before, the fight he and Mom had about selling the house, how I'd stepped in to calm it down. I told her about Luke's old drinking phase that scared me until he turned it around. I told her about my last boyfriend who cheated, how that breakup had gutted me, how I still felt stupid for trusting someone so thoroughly. Nicole always reacted perfectly. She'd grip my hand, nod, say things like, "You're so strong," or "I would have fallen apart if I went through that." She told me she was grateful I trusted her, that she wanted to be the sister she'd never had. It worked. I lowered every guard I had. She made me believe she wasn't marrying into our family. She was joining it wholeheartedly. I felt relief, even gratitude. I thought, finally, Luke has someone who wants to belong, someone who wants us. She started calling my mom just to check in about shower planning, sending her flowers on her birthday. Dad adored her. Luke worshipped her. Everyone thought I was lucky to have such a good friend built into my future family. I thought so too. Looking back, I can see every moment when I should have wondered why she wanted to know so much about our private business. But at the time, it just felt like connection. Trust. The foundation for a shared future. I remember one night in particular, after our third glass of wine, when she clinked her glass against mine and said, "We're going to be the best sisters anyone's ever seen." I smiled and believed her. Because that's what family does. It started subtly, a weird look from Mom during dinner. Luke getting quiet when I asked about wedding plans. My dad, normally the peacekeeper, acting strangely stiff when I mentioned Nicole. At first I thought I was imagining it. Maybe they were stressed about money or the logistics of the big day. But then it got worse. Mom stopped looping me into the group text about the bridal shower. When I asked if I'd missed something, she just said, "Nicole thought it might be simpler to handle directly." Luke didn't back me up. He just changed the subject. Then there were the whispers, my aunt telling me she hoped I'd try to be kinder. A cousin messaging me late one night asking why I was so set on ruining the engagement. I sat on my bed staring at the message, hands shaking. I tried asking Luke. I called him after work. He sounded tired, guarded. When I asked what was going on, he sighed. "Rachel, can you just not make this harder? Nicole's been really upset." I blinked. About what?" He paused. "She told us you've been really negative, that you're trying to make Mom hate her, that you don't want us to be happy." I felt cold all over. I asked him if he believed that. He didn't answer. That night, I barely slept. I kept scrolling through my old messages with Nicole, the memes we shared, the photos from our wine nights, the way she'd called me her sister. A week later, Mom called. She sounded strained. She said she didn't want to fight, but wished I'd stop digging up old wounds. That she knew I meant well, but I was upsetting everyone. I asked what she meant. She hesitated. Then she said quietly that Nicole told her I'd warned Luke not to trust her with money because of her family drama. That I'd said Mom and Dad's marriage was falling apart. That I'd called Luke an alcoholic. I sat there listening, my stomach twisting. I had told Nicole about Dad's health scare, about that one bad fight between them. I had told her about Luke's rough patch, not to gossip, to trust her, because she'd asked. She'd twisted every word. She hadn't invented it out of thin air. She'd weaponized my own voice. I tried to explain. Mom didn't want to hear it. She just said softly, "I wish you'd try to be happy for your brother." After that, I stopped trying to explain. Nicole, meanwhile, acted untouched. She still messaged me about dress fittings. She sent photos of the venue, asked for my opinion on flower arrangements. Like nothing had changed, like she hadn't just gutted my place in the family and fed it back to them as evidence of my jealousy. At one family dinner, she even gave a little toast. She said, "I'm just so grateful to everyone for making me feel welcome. Even Rachel, who's always so honest." She smiled right at me. My parents chuckled, thinking it was a joke. Luke didn't laugh. He just looked at his plate. I realized she was winning. They thought I was the problem, the difficult one, the one who couldn't let her brother go. I went home that night and locked the door and sat in the dark for hours. My phone lit up with her texts about the bachelorette party planning. She was so sure I wouldn't fight back. She thought I'd be too embarrassed, too mature to cause a scene, and she was almost right. But I'm not the kind of person who explodes. I'm the kind who takes notes, who saves receipts, who waits for the right moment, because if Nicole wanted to play this game, I was going to make sure she couldn't lie her way out when the time came. I didn't confront her right away. That's not my style. Instead, I watched. I listened. At family events, I kept my voice even while she draped herself over Luke's arm and flashed me these tiny, knowing smiles. She'd slip in little digs, always coated in sugar. "I just hope Rachel's okay with this plan," she'd say about the seating chart, glancing at Mom like she was worried about my mental state. "Rachel's always so particular about these things." Everyone would laugh, a little uncomfortably, but they'd laugh. I stopped answering her texts. She noticed. She asked Luke why I was being cold. He'd call me, sounding miserable, telling me to please not ruin this for him, that she was stressed enough already. I wanted to scream at him to open his eyes. Instead, I just sat there, clutching the phone, listening to my brother beg me to be nice to the woman who was poisoning them against me. Mom invited me to a cake tasting Nicole had picked. When I showed up, Nicole greeted me with open arms. "You came." She hugged me too tightly, whispered, "Let's not make this awkward." I pulled back and just smiled. I watched her feed Mom-curated stories about her childhood struggles, how she wanted this wedding to be the family she never had. Mom wiped a tear and squeezed her hand. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling, realizing they all saw her as this wounded little bird I was trying to bully. The worst part, She'd used the truth. She hadn't invented lies. She'd taken what I'd given her and twisted it just enough to sound like malice. My own words had become her shield. Luke wouldn't even look me in the eye when I tried to talk to him alone. "She's trying so hard," he said. "I don't know why you can't see that." He sounded exhausted, beaten, like he was pleading with me to just let her win. I realized then that was what she wanted, for me to surrender, to let her become the good daughter, the sister everyone adored. I remember the exact moment I decided I wasn't going to let her have it. It wasn't dramatic. It was after a family meeting where she presented her final wedding timeline. She asked me for my approval, her voice sweet. I caught Luke watching me, anxious, waiting for me to object so he could blame me for the tension. I smiled, said it was perfect. But inside, I made a decision. If she wanted to use my words against me, I'd use hers. From then on, I stopped fighting in the open. I started collecting. Every text she sent me, every call where she let her guard slip, the night she drunkenly vented about how easy it was to get people to pity her if she cried. How my mom was so desperate for another daughter she'd believe anything. How Luke was too soft to ever challenge her. I recorded that one. Calmly, I didn't react. I just kept her talking. When I hung up, I sat there for a long time. My heart was racing, but I felt clear, because Nicole thought my biggest weakness was caring what my family thought of me. She was right, but what she didn't realize was that caring is not the same as being weak. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to ruin the wedding. I was going to choose my moment. And when it came, I was going to make sure she couldn't spin her way out of it. After that call, I got systematic. I pulled up every text she'd sent me, screenshot after screenshot, her casual insults about my family, the times she'd hinted Luke was fragile and needed managing, the messages where she coached me on how to talk to Mom about Dad's health, all while framing herself as the helpful outsider who cared so much. I organized them all into folders labeled by topic. Then I went back to that recorded call. I listened to her slurred, gleeful voice over and over. "It's honestly so easy. Your mom just wants someone to cry with. Your brother? God, he's so grateful I'm not like his ex. He'd believe anything I say." She laughed, a low, knowing laugh. "By next year, I'll be the only sister in this family." I made sure that audio was backed up twice. I didn't share any of it right away. That was the point. I wanted her to feel safe, to keep talking. At family events, I smiled. I praised her dress choices, her floral arrangements. She ate it up, her guard dropping lower every time she caught me playing along. Luke relaxed too. He told Mom he was glad I was finally trying. She texted me constantly in those weeks before the rehearsal dinner. Updates about table settings. Requests for family photos she wanted to include in a slideshow. Always that syrupy tone. "We're finally making this work. I'm so glad you're over it." Over it. Meanwhile, I did my research. I asked Luke if I could help with the rehearsal dinner planning. He was relieved, grateful even. I chose the restaurant. I picked the seating plan. I made sure the Bluetooth speaker was one I controlled. I rehearsed what I'd say in my head dozens of times. I didn't want to be emotional, no shaking voice, no angry rant, just calm, clinical, precise. Because she had taught me something important. People don't believe accusations, they believe evidence. I waited. I kept collecting her smiling messages, her fawning public posts about my future sister, all while knowing what sat in my phone's storage. By the time the rehearsal dinner rolled around, I was ready, and she had no idea. The night of the rehearsal dinner was perfect by design. Warm lights strung across the patio, white tablecloths, candles flickering in glass holders. Nicole loved it. She swept in wearing pale pink satin, hugging everyone, laughing just a little too loud. Luke was glued to her side, smiling, grateful it was all going smoothly. I greeted her like nothing was wrong. Hugged her lightly, told her she looked beautiful. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "I'm so glad you're here." I smiled. Wouldn't miss it. Dinner went as planned. The server brought out 3 courses, wine flowed, conversation buzzed. Nicole made sure to steer every topic back to the wedding. She thanked my parents for accepting her as one of their own, tears shining in her eyes just enough to look sincere. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, squeezing her hand. Luke beamed. She looked at me once, caught my eye, and gave the smallest satisfied nod. Like she was saying, "See? I win." I waited. Near the end of dinner, when the cake was served, she tapped her glass with her fork. The room quieted. She stood smiling at everyone. "I just want to say how grateful I am to be joining this family. I know it hasn't been easy, but I've always just wanted to be your sister. I hope tonight proves we can move forward with nothing but love." She raised her glass. The family clapped, some sniffled. She sat down, brushing a tear. That was my cue. I cleared my throat gently. "Mind if I say something too?" Luke hesitated but nodded. Nicole blinked at me, still holding her glass. I stood, keeping my voice calm. "Nicole's right. It's important we're all honest tonight. Because family deserves honesty." I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, tapped the screen. The Bluetooth speaker connected with a soft chime. Nicole's smile faltered. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I simply hit play. Her voice filled the quiet patio, laughing softly, saying, "It's honestly so easy. Your mom just wants someone to cry with. Your brother? God, he'd believe anything. By next year, I'll be the only sister in this family." Silence. Complete silence. Mom's face went pale. Luke's eyes widened, mouth opening like he couldn't form words. Nicole tried to speak, stammering, "It's out of context." I let it play again. This time no one moved. When it ended, I paused, looked at Nicole, and said quietly, "You wanted honesty. I'm just making sure everyone heard yours." She knocked over her glass, standing up. Wine spilled across the tablecloth. She turned on Luke, hissing, "Are you really going to believe this? She's been trying to ruin us." Luke didn't answer. He just stared at her like he didn't know her at all. Nicole's face crumpled. She grabbed her purse and fled, her heels clicking furiously across the patio bricks. No one chased her. I sat back down. The only sound was my mom softly crying into her napkin. No one really spoke after she left. The candles burned low, the wine went untouched. Luke sat perfectly still, staring at the empty chair beside him. He didn't say my name, didn't thank me, didn't curse me out either, just sat there, jaw tight, breathing like every inhale was an effort. Mom wiped her eyes and whispered, "I didn't know." Dad didn't speak at all. He just rested his hand on her shoulder. The server came to clear the plates, but hesitated at the tension, hovering until I nodded it was okay. Eventually, Luke stood up. He walked out without looking back. I didn't follow. I stayed behind to pay the bill, handed the server extra to apologize for the scene. When I finally walked to my car, I sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. I didn't feel triumphant, not exactly. I felt like I'd just done surgery without anesthesia. But it was necessary. Because if I hadn't, she would have married my brother with everyone believing I was the threat. She would have smiled for the cameras, stood in family portraits, called me sister while twisting the knife. Now at least the lie was dead. It didn't fall apart all at once. Luke didn't call the wedding off that night, but he didn't speak to her for days. When he finally did, it wasn't to make up. It was to tell her not to come back. The wedding was canceled quietly. No big announcement, no blame in public. Just a notice to vendors, refunds where they could get them. Mom and Dad didn't throw it in his face. They just told him to come home for dinner whenever he was ready. It took months for him to look me in the eye again without flinching. But eventually he did. He apologized once. Just a low, raw, "I'm sorry." I told him it was okay. Because it was. We don't talk about her now. Not really. She's become a footnote, a lesson we learned too late, but well enough not to forget. And me? I don't regret what I did, not the planning, not the reveal, because family isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about protecting each other when it matters, even if it costs you your peace. Sometimes love doesn't mean forgiveness. Sometimes it means telling the truth. If you've been through something like this, or even if you've held back from saying what needed to be said, I hope this gives you permission to protect your own peace. If you want more real stories of quiet revenge, calm strategy, and the moments we choose ourselves over the people who want to hurt us, make sure you subscribe. And share your own story in the comments. I read them all.